What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome back to the channel, where today I have another installment in my author series, Why My Story Matters. We will be hearing from author A.R. Witham about The Legend of Blackjack. Before I bring Andy on to ask the burning question of what it was about this book that he just had to get it written for us, let me give you a quick non-spoiler summary of what it's about. This thrilling action and adventure fantasy debut, complete with pirates, is about Jack Swift. We meet Jack on the night of his 14th birthday, which actually ends up being the most miserable day of his life. After being emotionally, verbally abused by his foster mother, he goes to bed. He's then plagued by nightmares of the day when his father died, which just keeps that survivor's guilt fresh and extremely painful. And then Jack gets the birthday surprise of a lifetime, one which all of us fantasy readers, lovers would love to have one of our own. A very large talking monster resembles a rhino shows up. Jack is absolutely convinced he's dreaming right up until this monster throws him into a watery portal, landing him into another world. A world where legendary border knights protect people and the elves. There are pirates. Demons? You got them. A samurai? No problem. More bugs than I was comfortable with. Everyone can perform magic to an extent. If that list hasn't clued you in on all of the action and adventures that await you inside these pages, I don't know what will. But as far as I'm concerned, this is the type of fantasy story that you fall in love with, and that love will never diminish over time. Instead, it will continue to grow. You will revisit many, many times. But you've heard it from me. Now let's hear it from Andy. Hello, Andy. Welcome to the channel. So glad to have you. I brought you here today to ask you the burning question. The Legend of Blackjack, your debut novel. How did that story get its start, its origin? What birthed it? Was it a character that showed up in your head one day and started talking and wouldn't shut up? Was it an event that you experienced or one that you witnessed? How did this story get its start, and what is it about that story that means the most to you?
Wow, that's a big question. So I think the easiest way to answer that is by saying, I feel like all of us feel lost and lonely sometimes. And part of the reason that it was a coming of age story is that that's the time in your life when you feel the most lost and the most lonely, and all of us share that experience where you're not a boy and you're not a man and you're not a girl and you're not a woman. You don't really know what you are and who you are. But that doesn't stop at puberty. That feeling comes back. As much as we'd like to avoid it, it comes back when you're an adult, and more than once. And then so the point of the story is to remind you how that feels, how it feels to be alone, isolated, helpless, not in control of your life at all, and convey that feeling at the beginning of the book and kind of address that emotion. And then over the course of the book, reminding you that when you're forced to stop thinking about yourself and start offering help to someone else, that's the moment when it pivots. Because now you have a focus, now you have an objective. And that's when you discover who you are. And so that's really what The Legend of Blackjack is all about, is just, it's here to remind you that there is hope and that you have the opportunity to become the person who you were meant to be.
And that's why in my review, I wrote, this was the never-ending story for me. That movie came out when I was a kid. I absolutely loved that movie. Still love that movie. Watch it anytime I can. But The Legend of Blackjack just really reawakened how I felt the first time I watched that movie. I identified with the main character. And even though as an adult, I identified with Jack.
Yeah.
You transported me back to all of those times in my life where I felt I just did not know, I didn't know what to do. I felt like there was nobody who could give me guidance. Nobody noticed that I was just dead in the water. And you're exactly right. It's just like when I get stuck now. What do a lot of us do? We walk away. Well, when we realize we need to walk away, do something else for a while, and then you just have this moment where the light bulb comes on and you're like, that's what I need to do. Yeah. That's it. So you absolutely accomplished that goal. And this story is not just a one-time read. This is a tale that I also put in my review that just writes itself on your heart. And it's one you're going to pull from, you're going to remember. Anytime you reread it, it's going to be one of those, like a song, a favorite song in a time of your life. Anytime you hear that song years later, it's going to transport you back to that time when you first fell in love with it. That's The Legend of Blackjack to me. That's how I feel about this story. Anytime I reread it, anytime I talk about it, I remember how I felt reading it. And a lot of that is to do with your voice. I listened to your audiobook that you narrated along with reading it, and your voice was amazing. You are just a natural born storyteller. It was just perfection. When there was moments of action and adventure and danger, you would speed up, you would take your voice to a higher pitch. It was just phenomenal. Highly recommend the audiobook. So, since we're talking about your natural born storytelling and that you narrated the story, is there any particular part of the book, a quote, a paragraph, something that you feel is the heart of The Legend of Blackjack that you would like to read for us?
Sure. I had to think about this a lot because there are so many different sequences and trying to figure out something that hits the tone the right way. And a big part of it is not having that mentor and not having that father figure and not having someone to stand up for you. And so what I decided was that part of the coming of age aspect of it is the shaving scene. It's the first time Jack has ever shaved, and his mentor, Valerian Sai, who is this knight who's kind of adopted the mentor role for Jack, is showing him how to shave. And so I thought I'd read that. My brothers have always been the men who stood beside me, said Valerian, and my sons have been those that I've trained. This is how I was raised by my father, and this is what I pass on. Slower. Jack slowed down. What was your father like? Oh, he was many things, great and terrible, like all fathers. Jack ran the blade over his jugular. I'm scared, Valerian. You're doing well. No, I'm scared that I'm going to forget my dad. Jack kept the blade moving, but the handle shook. I remembered everything. I remember a formula in a book I read 10 years ago. I remember every single note of Beethoven's Fifth. I remember the ingredients of a Zagnut bar. I remember his face. I remember what he said. I remember how he moved. I remember everything about him, but I'm beginning to forget him. Valerian stared. None of us forgets our father. He brought you up. He taught you what he knew. He made you. If you want to see your father, look in a mirror. He still lives.
Now it's going to make me cry.
And I feel like that's what people need, even when it's just in fiction, is for someone to be there for them, to guide them through and help them. And that's what this book is supposed to be.
Yeah, just knowing that someone's there, even if they don't have the answer for you, they're just there. Absolutely phenomenal. If you have not read The Legend of Blackjack, now is the perfect time to enter the world of Keymark, because the more people who read this and love it write reviews, you can help me harass Andy to write more from this world, because we cannot end here. We just cannot end here. So, Andy, thank you so much for coming on the channel today and answering the tough question of why this story mattered to you. We thank you so much, and we hope to see more from you in the future.
And Leslie, I really appreciate you. And I just want to say I am so grateful that this story matters to you.
And there you have it, everyone. The Legend of Blackjack by A.R. Witham. I hope the combination of hearing about what this story means to me, as well as the author, is enough for you to be encouraged to pick up a copy of this book for your own. I just can't see this one being a disappointment for anyone. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.